Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Across the Multiverse with Great Stories. We are the judges at Great Stories. I'm Justin, and this is Travis.
Hello.
It's been really quiet recently for Magic, so we're going to kind of go over what we have right now. We want to talk about a few things, but overall, this is going to be a pretty short one. We'll have a lot more stuff for you, hopefully next month. So where we are right now is tomorrow starts the official spoiler season for Kaldheim. So right now, all we really have to work off of is some of the official spoilers that they gave us, a few of the commander products that they showed off, the commanders specifically, and some general information that they just gave the community. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the Kaldheim stuff. We're going to talk about, really briefly, just talk about some of the news around secret layers, and we'll see how it goes. It shouldn't be too long, probably only a nice short video for you. So we'll start things off with, and as always, my pronunciations, they're not always the easiest. Halvar, God of Battle.
Yep.
So this is a new legendary god. He is white, so double white, 2 of anything for a legendary creature god who is a 4/4. Notably, he is a dual-sided card, much like we were seeing.
Pathway lands.
Yep. Well, pathway lands, but also we had a few. I thought
We had the lands that flipped into spells.
yeah, lands that could be or spells that could be lands.
Yeah.
However you want to think about. But so his creature side says creatures you control that are enchanted or equipped have double strike, and then at the beginning of each combat, you may attach target aura or equipment attached to a creature you control to target creature you control. So that's really neat. He does some neat things there. Let you kind of move things around at the beginning of each combat. So I see that being actually really useful, especially with some of the Commander Legends stuff that came out recently.
for sure.
The Hagra deck would definitely want him in it.
Yeah, I mean, you attach any sword to him, and or to any creature you control.
Yeah,
for that matter.
And it's notable he lets you move it at the beginning of each combat. So in a format like Commander, if you have a creature that you need to survive a turn, you can attach an equipment you control that might give it hexproof.
Yep.
And so now that player can't target it this turn and say, okay, well now I need it to get around again. So now I'm going to throw a sort of whatever on it, Fire and Ice, let's say.
Sure.
So now it has hexproof and pro red and blue, and you can kind of build your own Voltron creature really quickly with him in a turn cycle in Commander.
It's notable that you can only move one or equipment each combat, so you can't just be like, I have these 6 swords attached to this one creature. I'm going to move them all to this creature.
Right. It is nice that it lets you move auras too, though.
Yes, that is nice. So you can move something like an all that glitters or
Curiosity. Anything really.
What's that 1 mana aura that the creature gets 1/1 for each artifact or equipment and aura? I think it is you control. It's like spectral armor or something like that.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. 1 white.
Yep.
Enchantment. Yeah.
It's from, I want to say,
Ethereal armor.
Ethereal armor. Yeah.
So that's his creature side. So he's really neat. Notably, he is legendary, so he could be your commander if you wanted him to. I think he's probably going to be better as part of a 99. I don't see him getting played a ton with what we have right now. I don't think he'll see any modern play.
No.
Because there's no...
He's too expensive.
The only deck that might want it would be something like Hammer Time.
Which is already almost a non-existent deck as is.
Right. Or I guess Bogles could want him, but he's 4 mana.
That's real expensive for
Boggles. That's super expensive for Boggles. So I don't see him seeing a ton of play with what we have right now. I think he's super cool. I think Commander is going to love him because equipments and auras are such a huge part of that format. But we also haven't seen a large chunk of this set. We have
Yes.
very, very little to go on right now.
Now, I honestly feel like his reverse side will see more play than his front side.
The equipment side?
Yes, the equipment. So the equipment is Sword of the Realm. It is 1 and a white for a legendary artifact equipment that reads, equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has vigilance, and whenever equipped creature dies, return it to its owner's hand, and it has a equip cost of 1 and a white.
So there's another, there's a colorless equipment that's very similar to this. I can't remember what it's called, but when the equipped creature dies, you can put a creature in that, I believe it shares a creature type with it.
Oh, I know I don't remember its name
It's
either.
a really janky combo piece that I think it's a 4-mana artifact equipment.
Yeah, I'm not
But
entirely sure.
that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, moving anyway.
It's a really interesting equipment card, and it's nice that it's actually really cheap to cast and equip. Now, for a little bit of a more rulesy question, because this might confuse some people. If you were to have the equipment side of him on the field and the creature side of them on the field, they can exist together, correct? Or no, because they're technically the same card.
Pre-release rules and release rules tend to change. As it is right now, you should be able to have both unless they say it otherwise, because they have different names. It's like having a Jace Memory Adept and a Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Right. And that's just something I wanted to touch on really quick, because that is something that I imagine might be confusing, especially because it's a sort of newer mechanic.
Right. It's always difficult to give rulings with cards that haven't released yet, because, especially when they haven't released the full set and given us all of the rules, because you can look at something and go, oh, this works. And then they'll release a set of rules that says, oh, no, this does not work.
Right. A great example of this is actually Opposition Agent.
Yeah.
It still can cause some of the problems that we were talking about in our video on the Commander Legends set. Mm-hmm. But they actually gave us the rulings that say it's essentially whichever opposition agent is the newest is the one that takes priority.
Is it newest, or is it the first in turn order?
It is the most recent to come in, I believe, was the ruling.
Interesting.
It's very similar to, at least I draw this comparison, not everyone will. It's very similar to the timings thing with Opalescence and...
I don't even want to talk about that.
Yeah, no, that's a whole mess. We're not going to talk about that. It's a mess. Bad. But that is kind of how I relate to it. That's the easiest way I'm able to understand it, is it's similar in that regard of whichever one comes in a certain order.
Right.
That's how it works.
How do you feel about it being 2 permanents? So like a creature on one side and an equipment on the other.
I think it's fine. I think it's kind of interesting. So if you look at the artwork for the creature side, he is holding that sword.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if it's setting a precedent for, if there's going to be more gods, I'm not sure if it's setting a precedent that they're all going to have an equipment side that is going to be their like signature weapon.
I would think. Oh, go ahead, finish.
And it might encourage like a certain style of play. Like his creature side encourages you to play equipments.
Yeah, I would expect all the modal double face cards for the set like to be like Zendikar, where they were all spell that flipped into land. I would expect all of these to be creatures that flipped into either equipments or just artifacts in general.
Okay.
Because it just makes sense. It's a cycle.
Right. And that is kind of noteworthy because they have said that the flip cards are going to be returning in future sets.
Right.
Past Kaldheim. and we were kind of wondering how that was gonna work,
Right.
what they were gonna make each of them be. So making this set all around artifacts, they might just be going through a lot of the permanent types, just saying like, okay, this set is gonna be creatures that can turn into artifacts, or like X spell type that can turn into artifacts or equipments or
Right.
whatever. This is our only example of this that we have right now,
Right.
so we can't be certain. It could just be a one-off thing, or just the deities that do it. We're not sure.
Something else that's notable about him is that he doesn't have a restriction when it comes to attacking and blocking, like most of the other gods do.
Yes, that is very noteworthy.
I think the only other gods that relieve that restriction are the Locust Scarab god and I forget the other one.
Scorpion.
Scorpion. I think those are the only other three gods that don't.
I believe you're right.
So it's kind of, especially when you consider that this is acting more of a god card than those were, where those were
Right.
essentially just big flashy creatures.
Yeah,
which I mean,
and
I guess
this
this is too, but
Well, I'd say this is very reasonably costed. I think its body is very fair. I think it has like meaningful text.
yeah, I mean it's a 4/4 for 4.
Yeah, and both sides of the card are relevant. I think there's arguments to playing this side of the card, just like playing this card in a deck just to have the equipment card.
Yeah, I can agree. I think that is honestly how it'll get played most of the time.
Right.
Now, something else that's kind of funny with this card, you can now have a equipment in your command zone.
Yeah. That is definitely noteworthy.
Yeah. And again, this is all pre-release rules, so you don't actually know.
Yeah.
But I think you would still pay command tax on the equipment side.
I imagine you would.
It's one of those, again, we don't have the ruling, so you can't know for sure until the actual release time. But as it stands, I would imagine that that is how that would work.
Yeah. All right. So, so final thoughts on him. What are you feeling? You feel like how you thinking he's gonna shake out overall?
I mean,
I know we don't have a lot of stuff to go off of.
Right.
Like as of time of recording, how do you feel about this card?
I think he will be a commander staple for white. I do not see him seeing play, with the exception of maybe his equipment side, in any of the other constructed formats.
All right. So moving on to one of the next cards we're actually going to be talking about, Kaya the Inexorable.
Yes.
So this is so she's a returning character, one of two. We don't have the card for the second returning
Tybalt
character.
has not been given his card yet. We just
Okay.
we just know that Kaya and Tybalt are returning, and then there's two new ones whose names I do not remember.
All right. So we have Kaya, who is 3, a white and a black, for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. She has a +1 of put a ghost form counter on up to one target non-token creature. It gains when this creature dies or is put into exile, return it to its owner's hand and create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. She has a -3 of just a flat exile target non-land permanent, and a -7 of you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may cast a legendary spell, so not even creature, just legendary spell from your hand, graveyard, or among cards you own in exile without paying its mana cost.
Yeah. So something funny with Kaya, you can ultimate her, and then on your next turn immediately bring her back.
Yeah.
And then you can just immediately -3.
And I definitely feel like that is probably the flavor that they were going for here.
Yeah.
She's definitely really cool. I like the play on the ghost form, kind of calling back to Kaya's ghost form from War of the Spark.
Yep.
Which was a very powerful card.
It saw standard play, in fact, didn't it?
I believe so. It was.
At least minor standard play. I don't know if it saw.
I don't think it was widespread, but it did see play.
It was in the early versions of the Rakdos sacrifice deck, because you would sacrifice something, it would bring it back immediately, and you'd do it again.
Yeah. So I really like that play on it. I like that you get a bot. I like it. It returns it to your hand first of all. So if it was a creature with an ETB effect, enter the battlefield effect, it lets you recycle that. And this is on a plus, which is even better. Which means even if you were to board wipe, you get that creature back to your hand, or any creatures with ghost form counters, and then B, it gives you a body. It gives you a 1/1 spirit with flying, which is not nothing.
Yeah. Something else that's nice about it is specifically that it states that if it exiles the creature too.
Right.
So no matter what, you are going to get that.
You're going to get the creature back, and you're going to get a spirit.
Like, just because, even if it gets bounced, you get to replay it. You don't get the spirit, but it's the same effect in the end.
Yeah, you're. In my mind, you don't +1 because you're trying for the spirit. You +1 because you want to replay that creature. So even if they're bouncing it, like you're not getting top shelf value, but you're still getting what you're looking for.
Yeah, I could see Kaya in a deck that plays stuff like Eldrazi Displacer or Charming Prince. Stuff that you, specifically a flickering deck where you want those enter the battlefield triggers. You want creatures to constantly be entering and leaving.
Now, so she is 5 mana.
Yep.
So that does make her a little pricey for faster formats.
Yes.
I definitely think it is absolutely worth understanding that her -3 is ridiculously strong.
Oh yeah, it's a Vindicate that it's a slightly powered down Vindicate. Go ahead.
It's just super good because like if you think about it, we've seen stuff like Garrick, like for ability, what's first time he was green-black.
Oh, you're asking a lot. You're talking about the 7 mana one?
Yeah.
He killed planeswalkers.
Right, but I didn't know if you knew the after the comma.
Oh, no.
But the first time Garrick was green-black.
Oh, you're talking about his name?
Yeah.
Apex Predator.
Yeah, so Garrick Apex Predator. It was a +1 to destroy target planeswalker. That's only one thing. Sure, it's a plus. That's cool. But it's only one permanent type. Kaya, sure, it's a -3. It sets her to 2 loyalty. Oh no, boo-hoo.
Yeah.
It exiles anything that isn't a land.
Yeah, and that is ridiculous because she can do it immediately too. Like
Yeah.
you play her, she exiles something, and you essentially are 2-for-1ing your opponent because you are getting this body of a planeswalker while at the same time removing their creature all for one card.
Yeah, and it's definitely noteworthy because it can hit other planeswalkers, it can hit creatures, enchantments, artifacts, any problem permanent that isn't a land,
And
she is immediately an answer.
and again, it's specifically exile too, so it can even hit those hard to get things like the indestructible creatures or just indestructible permanents in general.
And the other interesting kind of bit is like if I played her on an empty board, like I had an empty board, I'd -3 because there's no point to +1ing. So I could exile their threat, their big thing that could kill her immediately, and then on my next turn play a thing, plus it, like...
Yeah, something that is also noticeable is if you do play her on an empty board and you don't have any targets for the essentially the Vindicate, her +1 specifically is up to 1. So it's like Teferi Time Raveler. You can activate the ability and just choose no targets and still get the benefit of loyalty.
Yeah. And that is always noteworthy that you can use the abilities and not have to...
Which seems to be what they're going for more and more because, I mean, it makes sense.
Now, so she cares about legends for her, and it's not even legendary creatures or planeswalkers, it's just legendary spells.
Yeah.
So would you play her in some sort of Super Friends list, or?
I could see that. I could also see, specifically in Standard, her being played in like a control shell.
Yep, I could see her being kind of almost a Teferi Hero of Dominaria style, like finisher, where she's just always gonna be making their life miserable.
Right. She's not quite as powerful as
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Hero of Dominaria, but she can definitely put in the same amount of work. I mean, she just immediately removes something. She pluses 1 and immediately can remove something again after that.
Yep.
If you can get to her -7, it's...
If you ever get to her -7, you can actually start doing some pretty rude things.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you had a second one of her, and you -7 one of them, okay, that one's gone. You play yours with the emblem. So it is at the beginning of your upkeep. So that is noteworthy.
And it's only 1.
Yeah. But so say you emblem her, and then you play, like, for your turn, you play a new one.
Yep.
Immediately -3.
Okay. And you can just keep doing that every turn.
Then every single turn, you're just getting a free -3, just exiling target permanent, target non-land permanent every turn for the rest of the game.
Now, something that is a little awkward with her emblem is that because it's at the beginning of your upkeep, you don't get to see the card that you drew that turn. So you have to make that judgment call on what to cast before you have all available information.
Well, it is without paying its mana cost.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So,
okay.
So you're not losing anything.
That's true.
By just impulse playing a card.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Yeah, I guess the only downside to that would be, again, drawing a second copy of something that isn't her.
Right. All right, so that's her. So what's next to talk about
I believe you can either do the wolf or the saga.
Let's talk about the wolf real quick. We don't have to spend too much time on him, though. So next up, we got Surulf, I believe is how you pronounce that.
Sure, we can go with that.
Realm Eater. So 1, a green, a black, legendary creature, wolf, and it's a 3/3. So it's a 3/3 for 3, which is already good. It passes the vanilla test. And it says, whenever a permanent an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Surulf Realm Eater. And then additionally, so this is the second paragraph of text, at the beginning of your upkeep, if Surulf has 1 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may remove all of them. If you do, exile each other non-land permanent with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of counters removed this way.
Yeah. So he is a very strong card, and if I'm not mistaken, it's a call to Norse mythology. There is a pair of wolves. I don't know their names off the top of my head.
I'm not particularly familiar with Norse mythology.
They are essentially harbingers of the end times. You know, they come in and they are world eaters.
All right. And I definitely think this does a good job of representing that, if that is the case.
I mean, he literally blows up the board anytime he has a counter on him. Or he can.
He can. He has the potential to, which I think is actually incredibly strong.
Oh, yeah. Again, specifically because it's exile, you get rid of everything.
They're gone. They're gone forever.
Yeah,
or probably forever.
Which, again, kind of makes me sad, because I was telling you about this earlier. My counters deck would love to have this wolf, if not for the fact that it exiled the creatures and not destroyed them.
Right.
This is one of the few situations where Pernicious Deed would be the better of the 2 cards.
For that deck.
Yeah.
I think the fact that it exiles other things,
and except for him,
except for him, is super strong. So, like, I think he could probably see some sort of standard play in, like, a Golgari removal.
I could see it.
Style deck. You're more about, like, board control and making sure that he's probably going to be the only thing that you have in play a lot of the time for creatures.
Yep. It's a bit of a shame that Casualties of War is rotated out of standard now, because these 2 would play perfectly together.
Yeah, they would be really good together. Outside of standard, I doubt he'll see play like most things
probably
in
not.
standard. It probably won't see any play in modern or anything big. I think commander, he would be a super fun commander. You just play a ton of removal, a ton of hand attack, like you were saying, Casualties of War, just these really fun, unique cards that really deal with different aspects of the game, and he'll just keep controlling the board.
Hull Breach is red, isn't it?
What is it?
Hull Breach?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's the same, because so is the other one that I can't think, Decimate, that's also red-green.
Yeah.
So those are a little unfortunate, but...
But like, I think it would be a super fun commander to play. And it's just permanent,
Yeah.
so it's not even.
Oh yeah,
a
you can
creature.
do some really rude things with this.
If you were really rude and somehow able to keep it out of exile, you could just like Ramanop Excavator, play Strip Mine a bunch of times, or
just thinking
because he hits what?
He hits everything but lands, and then
yeah. So it's really hard for him to like. He's built really well that you can't super abuse him that
Right.
I can see right now, because even if you put something like Hardened Scales out, that's only going to benefit you for so long.
literally only until you pop him.
Only until you pop him once, and then you either need to have another Hardened Scales effect, which there aren't really a ton of in these colors specifically. I know there are a good few
Yeah, you
in
got
the
the snake.
game.
You have the snake.
You got the snake, you got the centaur, you got Doubling Season, you have Primal Vigor.
Yeah.
I want to say Vigor. There's Primal Vigor and Primal Surge, and
They're similar.
they do very different things.
Yeah, like their names are similar, the effects are not similar.
Yeah. But I think it's a super sweet card.
Oh, definitely.
I think if you build it as a commander, you should build it very non-land permanent light. It should be a lot of removal, or if you're building it, build it with higher CMC.
Yeah.
So he doesn't wipe your own board with him.
Like the way I see it is, you end up running a lot of the early elf creatures to make mana, but then after that, once you're established, you really only want like CMC 5 and up.
Yeah.
Because past that point, like if you're removing 5 counters at a time, then like you're already to that point.
Yeah,
and
you're probably too far gone at that point too.
Something to note with him too is you don't get the option to remove less than, or to remove a certain amount of counters. It's either all or none.
Yeah.
And then to go with that, you have to have at least 1 counter on him if you want to blow up, say, something like tokens. You have to blow up 1s as well.
All right, so let's move on from him. So final thoughts on him. I think he's super cool. I think he's one of the more unique creatures to come out in a long time, actually. He does stuff that really we've never seen. He feels legendary, or she feels legendary. Yeah. I can't really tell.
It's another callback card.
Yep, it's a callback card. It's true to source material for the set.
Yep.
It's all around just really great. I think it really hit the mark. Whether it sees a lot of play or not will all depend on the format and how the rest of the set shakes out.
I think it'll be primarily a commander card, though.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you on that.
Should we talk about the saga?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So we have Showdown of the Scalds. This is our first multicolor saga.
Yep.
It's 2 a red and a white. Its first chapter is exile the top 4 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. And then its 2 and 3 are, whenever you cast a spell this turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. So it's just, that's it. Those are the 2 modes. Or not modes, but chapters, as they like to call them.
So I think the first one's kind of neat. I don't think it's 4 mana neat, because we've had effects like this, like Light Up the Stage, that exile cards off the top and give you temporary access to them.
I do actually really like this card.
Okay.
It reminds me a lot of Escape to the Wilds.
Okay, yep, I can definitely see that.
Specifically because, again, you get to play lands off of it. You get to play anything off of it, anything that you reveal off of it.
Okay.
It's until your next turn, too.
Yeah. So is Light Up the Stage.
And Escape, yeah.
Yeah.
It just gives you so much extra advantage. And
Yeah.
plus,
I mean, 4 cards is a lot.
and plus you have access to those cards when the second.
Right. So if you had a creature out, it'll start to make it bigger.
Immediately, yeah.
And it's only 8, so it doesn't have a restriction on the number of spells either.
No.
As long as you're casting spells, it's gonna keep putting +1/+1 counters on things.
Yep.
That's really actually kind of cool. I maybe would have liked a 3rd mode.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
again, this isn't a card I see being standard playable unless the format is pretty slow.
Yeah,
But-
that seems to kind of be how it's shaking out, is a lot of higher costed stuff.
I see this being a red-white commander all-star.
Oh, for sure. Boros notoriously bad at any sort of card advantage.
Yeah.
So like, I think this is a fantastic inclusion. It does hit that like sweet spot of you want to be making your army bigger.
Yeah.
So I definitely can see this.
And right around 4 mana and Boros is usually around the time you start to lose your gas.
Yeah.
So that's like the sweet spot for this card draw, or card draw.
Yeah. So I'd like to talk about the next card.
Okay. Yeah, we can move on. What are your final thoughts on this?
I think it's neat. I think you're definitely right that it's a Boros Commander All-Star. I think that saga is going to be shown to be super important to playing those colors in Commander.
Yeah.
It just gives so much card advantage. It makes your guys actually a relevant size. It's really, really nice for that deck. Outside of those colors,
Yeah.
and probably Commander as a whole, I don't really see this coming up too much.
No, I don't.
4 mana in Standard is really expensive.
Especially in red-white.
Yeah, especially red-white, where you're looking more to be really aggressive and really just go in there, beat them down fast, beat them with small, like maybe like 2 mana 2/3s or something like that.
Right.
You're not looking to play a 4 mana card to try and refuel.
Right. Right. So
So
talk about
the
the next
next card is particularly exciting.
Oh, yeah.
So we got there, boys. We finally got there. Toski, Bearer of Secrets, is a 4 mana, so 3 and a green, legendary. Actually, I'm gonna save that for last.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
go
save
ahead.
that for last. It's a 4 mana 1/1, so not great stats.
No.
We're gonna get that off the table right now. It's not great stats.
It's the rest of the text box that you want that.
Everything else is what matters. So I'm saving the creature typing for last.
Yeah.
Because that's the real icing on the cake here. So
It's got a lot of text.
it has
too.
a lot of text. It is a legendary creature. It can't be countered. It is indestructible. It attacks each combat if able. And this is the really important part on this card, I
Well,
think.
one of 2 really important parts.
Well, yeah, this is the second most important part. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So, the big reveal, it's a squirrel.
It's a legendary squirrel.
Yeah, it's a legendary squirrel. So you can finally play a legendary squirrel as your commander.
Yep.
We got there, boys. They finally listened to us. It only took them, how long has Magic been a thing?
Oh, God, this is the 22nd year? Or 27th year?
Something like that. It only took them 27 years, but they finally made a legendary squirrel. We got there.
Which is funny because squirrels were like an actual tribe
Yeah.
in early Magic.
If you guys haven't played for like early Magic or enjoy the history of the game, squirrels were a very legitimate tribe that they just stopped supporting at one
Yeah.
point or another. And I'm kind of in love that they made a legendary squirrel, even if it's only a one-off thing and we never see like squirrels with large support again. I think it's super cool that they actually gave us a legendary squirrel.
And this card is actually ridiculous.
It's super good. I don't even in all seriousness, like as much as I love memeing about it being a squirrel, This card is ridiculous. This card does so many things, is super hard to deal with, and is actually another, like...
It's a staple creature for green Commander.
It's an immediate include to any deck that's playing green. I think it could honestly be argued that this is another example of green's power creep recently.
Yes.
Like in the past few years, green has been getting increasingly more and more powerful. And not that I'm complaining, because I love green. Green's my favorite color in Magic.
And as is it mine.
So, like, neither of us are ever going to complain to you about this card. This card is the nuts. I love everything about this. I will never be upset to draw this card. I will never be disappointed to open it in a pack. Like, this card is super good.
Now, I think it's so pushed, honestly, because of the fact that it's the legendary squirrel that everyone has been waiting for. Like, they were like, we're going to give it to them. We might as well really give it to them.
Yeah. Like, this is the head honcho. This is the boss monster for squirrels. And sticking in line with squirrels, it is a 1/1.
Yeah.
Squirrels don't get very big.
No.
But if you have 16 of them, you can block Emrakul.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you have 15, you
15.
Can block.
Yeah, if you have
Easy
15, you can...
You're getting a little excessive with the amount of squirrels.
Hey, man, never enough squirrels.
This works really well with tokens, because...
Which squirrels is primarily a token-based tribe.
Yep. Just every creature that hits gets a card.
And that is, I think, again, as much as I love to joke about this being a squirrel, that is the most relevant line of text on this card.
But something that's funny is that that's in line with squirrels too, because think of it like this: it hits,
it steals a nut,
steals an acorn, and brings it back to you.
Yeah. So, it's very flavorfully crafted. I think you're right. It is probably a little pushed because it is the legendary squirrel. There is no other option if you want to play squirrel tribal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's
Commander.
shapeshifter. I think there's you can play Morpheron, but
You could, but
yeah,
squirrels are green.
yeah.
I don't.
No, I don't think there's any other.
I don't think there's ever been a non-green squirrel.
There's a Cornelia, but that's an unset card.
Yeah, but we're not talking about unsets. Final thoughts on this? I think it's incredible.
Oh, I love him. I love specifically the showcase art for it too.
I haven't seen the showcase art for it yet.
Yeah.
So I'll be looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I think the showcase art is a million times better than the original art.
Is it? All right.
Shall we talk about just briefly the pathway lands?
I think we have one more. Yeah, we have one more.
Oh, is it the dwarf?
No.
Go ahead.
So, this is another tribe that we haven't seen in a while. So.
Oh yeah.
We have a new addition, and hopefully more, but we'll see. It's called Realm Walker. It is a 3 mana, so that's 2 and a green, 2/3 creature shapeshifter. So you might be thinking to yourself, that's kind of weird. You don't really see many green shapeshifters. Well, that's because it's got changeling, which means it's every creature type. On top of that, it's sticking really well in line with this new idea that green really cares about creatures coming into play, and like specifically this one helps enable them to come into play.
Yeah. Lately, green has been getting a lot of
creatures matter support.
Well, specifically
Tribal
card advantage
creature.
from the top of the deck rather than from drawing cards.
Yeah.
And this card showcases that very well.
Yeah, so to keep going with it, when Realm Walker enters battlefield, you choose a creature type, pretty standard for any tribal stuff. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, which that's pretty cool for green. Green doesn't really get that outside of like Courser Crewfix. Courser Crewfix is a look, I think, or is it reveal?
It's a reveal.
So
Courser, Oracle Moldiah.
Yeah, so
those are both reveals.
Most of green's like, hey, you get to take a peek under the hood kind of thing.
Yeah.
Most of it's like outright reveal. You just everyone gets to see it. It's out there for the world to see.
They have been kind of shying away from that. Like,
Yeah.
Vizier the Menagerie was
Yep.
like the beginning of that.
Which that's actually a really good note, because we'll get into the last line. It's very, very reminiscent of Vizier.
And of Vivian from Ikoria, I want to say.
Yes, that is.
Her static ability.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. But so its last ability is, you may cast creature spells of the chosen type from the top of your library.
Yeah. So if you name elf when it enters the battlefield, any elf that's on top of your deck, you can cast from the top of your deck.
Right. As if Elf Ball needed more help. A little tidbit. We both love elves.
Yes.
I love elves in Canadian Highlander, which is a really fun format. Maybe we'll do a format focus on it at some point. But Travis also loves elves in Canadian Highlander, but he loves them significantly more than I do.
I play elves in basically every format. I have a Canadian Highlander deck that's elves. I'm rebuilding my Commander deck that's elves. I have modern elves. I'm building legacy elves.
Yeah, so Travis loves elves. So like, Realm Walker is just another utility box card that can just go in there and just, because now you don't need to worry about, oh, do I draw the perfect card off the top? Now it's just, I can just cast the perfect card off the top.
Right. It works really well with things like Worldly Tutor, where it puts a creature right on top of your deck, so you can set up and immediately cast that card.
Yep. There's really, it's a really good card. It's another one of those cards that's really great. I wouldn't say it's overpowered, because it definitely relies on your deck building skills, and
no, it's a pretty tame card, because it dies to most removal.
It dies to bolt.
Yeah, it can't really attack that well, because it's what, a 2/2?
It's a 2/3.
2/3. It's still not great.
So it's a 3-mana 2/3. So
it's
slightly
undercosted for its body, but everything else on it is pretty on par.
Yeah, and I hope they kind of keep that theme going of the more powerful a card is, or the more relevant words that a card has,
the smaller the body.
The smaller the body, because like the squirrel has tons of relevant text, but it's really small.
Again, I think that's more of a flavor reason than it is anything else.
Right.
But I understand what you're saying.
Because like they very easily could have just made it a 2/2, 2/3, 1/2. Like they could have given it more substance in its body, but they didn't, and I'm kind of really okay with that.
Now, I don't really think there's much in the way of like shapeshifters in Norse mythology, which is interesting.
I know Loki.
Yeah,
but like Loki's
there's
deity.
Like very specific instances of it, but not like just
again,
throwing out the shapeshifter creature type.
Again, I'm not super familiar with Norse mythology myself. So I can't really speak to that too much.
Yeah. If I had to guess, either throwing shapeshifters in would either be a story move or it would be a just gameplay-wise move. Like just to make things more convenient in terms of gameplay. But
I can agree with that.
You would know my thoughts. I think it's more of a story thing.
Yeah,
we can't really talk about that.
We can't. There's certain things we can't talk about right now. For specific reasons, we will absolutely get into it and get into the nitty-gritty of what we think when
the set releases.
When the set fully releases, or when specific things happen.
Yeah, we'll talk about the story more.
Yeah, we'll talk about the story more at a future time, and whatever implications that might have going forward.
Right.
But for right now, we're just gonna finish off. Let's talk about real quick the pathway lands.
Yep. So we have got the last 4 of that cycle from. It's 4, isn't it? Because there were 6.
Oh yeah, there is only 4.
Yeah.
That is weird. That's
it's
really
because
weird.
they did 6 in Zendikar for some reason.
I don't like that.
No, it's weird because they usually do cycles in 5 and 5.
Yeah.
But these are the last 4 of the rare double face lands. that you can just pick the side to play.
Yeah. So we have the. So I'm not going to go through all the names. I'm just going to go through the colors real quick.
That's fair.
So we got the white-blue. We have the red-black, green-black, and green-blue. So those are the 4 that we were missing. So that'll complete that cycle, which we knew about. They already told us that
Yep.
they were going to be doing that. So no surprises there.
No. The interesting thing that me and you talked about before with these is that from what it looks like, the only one that has relevancy to, like, when they release sets, they tend to do creature types in color pairs.
Yeah.
The only color pair that these seem to match up with is the green-black one. All the other ones
Yeah.
seem to be opposite
Yeah.
of the rest of the set.
So there has been a few of the set booster.
Yeah.
That's correct. Set booster. Yeah. So there has been some set booster cards that have been spoiled. So we know roughly what some of the tribes are going to be.
Or like, yeah, we have like we're guessing for the most part, but it's
Yeah.
a general idea.
And like some of the cards mention certain card types or creature types, so we can speculate that certain things are going to be returning. Like there was one that references what was it? Dwarves, equipments, and vehicles. Was it?
Yes, that was an equipment in the theme boosters.
Yeah, theme boosters. That's the ones I was.
They're in the
thinking.
set boosters too, but
But so like, we know that. So
we can take a guess. So we can say that
So-
red blue is most likely going to be giants.
yep, because we have that. We have that from the theme booster. There is a giant wizard, and it is mono blue.
And then we have a giant berserker, I want to say. That's red.
Let me check real quick.
Should be like
Yes.
yeah. And then
So it's probably safe to say that, and also, giant itself
is generally those colors.
generally red, and if it's going to have another color, it's typically a blue or I think I've seen
White.
green occasionally.
White is the other one usually.
Yeah.
Because of stuff like, well, from Lorwyn.
Yeah.
That's when the last time giants made like a major impact
Yep.
on anything.
We've
Green.
al- We've also seen there's angels.
Yep.
So it's basically been pretty confirmed that angels are going to be black-white.
Yeah, that's what it
that's gonna
seems like.
be their color pairing.
There's been a few in both black and white so far. Elves are pretty much going to be green and black. I
Yep.
mean, we know that for sure because of the commander
Yep.
card that we'll talk about in a bit. Dwarves.
Dwarves are going to be coming back.
That's most likely going to be red and white.
Yeah, that's what they were in Kaladesh as well.
Kaladesh, yes.
So that's kind of sticking true to what's
It's on brand, yeah.
Yeah, it's what's been established. So it's either going to be mono red or Boros, or maybe red with some light accents of white. We'll see.
Right.
We really don't have enough right now to go off of as far as that entire tribe's color pairing, but it's
Right.
likely going to be Boros.
And then something else with the theme booster is we are most likely going to see vehicles again.
Yes, so we do have a little vehicle.
The mine cart.
Yeah, it's a little mine cart. It's kind of cute. Has trample. It's a 5/1.
Yeah, it's
3 mana 5/1.
a theme booster card.
like it's neat. Crew 2. So like
It's a theme booster card.
yeah. The theme boosters are pretty sweet. So let's. Is there anything you really want to touch on the theme boosters? As any other cards that really stuck out to you other than just the creature typing ones?
No, not really.
All right.
Move on to the 2 commander cards.
Yeah. Oh, there's one more card we didn't talk about.
Oh, the pyre.
Well, the pyre and the dwarf.
Oh, yep. So do you want to do dwarf first?
No particular order. Your choice.
All right. Yeah, let's do the dwarf first because it comes first in the list.
All right.
So the dwarf is Magda Brazen Outlaw. It is 1 in a red for legendary dwarf berserker, and it's a 2/1. Its text box says other dwarves you control get +1/+0. And whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure token. And then its final string of text is sacrifice 5 treasures, search your library for an artifact or dragon card, and put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library.
I think this card is super cool.
It is very cool. It's very flavorful too.
I love that it can grab dragons.
That's what makes it very flavorful, because it's like dwarves are very greedy when it comes to gold, but so
Dragons outclass them most times.
Most times.
Ask Lord of the Rings. I think it's super cool. Personally, and again, I don't know how much support this card will be given. Like, if dwarves are going to be a super prominent tribe, or if they might just be a smaller part of the set.
Yeah.
Like, shapeshifters, we were talking about beforehand, and we're not really sure that they're going to be super prominent. We're kind of expecting them to be
Kind of just sprinkled
like
in
just
every
kind
now and then.
like sprinkled in. They're
To help fill out the creature
Yeah.
tribes,
Yeah.
essentially.
like Walker of the Realms or Realm Walker. I'm not sure which.
Realm Walker.
Realm
Yeah.
Walker. Realm Walker is really at its heart. Like, you're gonna see that with elves, because
Yeah.
that's really the card. Like, that's the tribe in the set that card's gonna benefit the most.
Right.
That we've seen. I have to keep saying that. But I love that it can grab dragons. I love that it can grab artifacts.
Yep.
I personally, when I saw this card, I immediately thought Rakdos.
Yep. Now, just a quick something to note with it.
Yep.
You cannot grab the god with it.
Yes.
You cannot grab the artifact side of the god. In your
Yes.
deck, the god is the creature side.
Yes. So immediately my first thought was Revel in Riches when
Yep.
thinking about this card, because then you can just keep sacrificing 5 treasures and just grabbing big dragons, like just play Rakdos dragons, and just keep killing their things and grabbing dragons and more dragons, and it feels like it could be so much fun.
I feel like this card as a commander will play heavily like, again, like King Makar, the inspired cards where you run those weird artifacts. Like, I think it's Honor Worn Shoku is the one. It's a mana rock that you can tap a creature to untap it.
Yep. And then there's some equipments there's an equipment that you can pay to and untap the equipped creature to give it +2/+2.
Yep.
So like there's a bunch of quirky old cards that you could absolutely cram into a deck with this, and it would be super cool and super fun, and I would love to play either with it or against it at some point.
Now, it'll be interesting to see if they give us enough dwarf support to actually build like a tribal deck, or it's going to be more of like we're going to build a treasure deck instead.
Yeah, and there are some old dwarves, but they're not really that great.
One of my favorites is called Mind Layer.
I think I know this card.
I love that card. It's pretty bad. I think it's 3 mana for a 1/1 that you can pay, I want to say it's 2 mana and tap it to put a mind counter on a land.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever that land becomes tapped for mana, you destroy that land. The catch is that when Mind Layer goes away, so do all of his mines.
So I think this card's super sweet.
Oh yeah.
I think it will be. Oh, and it's 2 mana. Did we say it was 2 mana?
I did.
I think there is probably going to be enough dwarf support to do something with it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can run 7 dwarves.
You can.
From Throne of Eldraine.
They certainly have the dwarf creature type.
Yep, and you are allowed to run
7
of them. So
yeah,
there's something.
I mean, yeah. Closing thoughts on that?
I think this card's super sweet. I think it'll be, again, like a lot of the legends we've been talking about today.
Yep.
It'll be crazy cool for Commander. It'll add a lot of spice, a lot of flavor. As far as Standard goes, it's really yet to be seen how much support dwarves are really going to be getting. And on even more than that, how much support dragons are going to get in
Yeah.
this set.
This doesn't really seem like a dragon-heavy set.
Yeah, Norse mythology, to me, from what I know about it, which isn't much,
Doesn't really scream dragon.
it's not a lot of dragons. It's a lot more like it's cold. Loki's gonna go like tug on Thor's cloak,
Yeah.
and make him like throw Mjolnir at something that he shouldn't.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It'll be an interesting card. Unless there is an aggro deck that involves dwarves, I don't think it's going to see play in standard.
Yeah.
And the only reason I say an aggro deck is because of that +1/+0 that it can give dwarves.
Yep.
Moving on to other tribal synergies, though, you want to read off Pyro Heroes?
Yeah. So we have one more card, or we have 2 more cards actually after this.
Yeah.
So this one's real quick. So it's called Pyre of Heroes. It's a 2-mana artifact. You can pay 2, tap it, and sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a creature card that shares a creature type with the sacrificed creature and has a converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrificed creature's converted mana cost.
Yeah. So
Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Activate this ability only at sorcery.
Yeah. So what we have is a colorless tribal birthing pod.
Yep.
Which, I mean, it doesn't fulfill the same role as birthing pod because you can't grab any creature type with it.
Right.
But I was mentioning this to you earlier. I think historic goblins will like this because you can go Goblin Instigator on 2 or 3, and then the Pyre, and then you can turn the Instigator into a Goblin Matron.
Yep.
Goblin Matron grabs Muxus, and then you turn the Matron into a Krenko.
Yep.
And you turn the token into a Prospector, and you just go to town.
Yeah. And I think it's definitely, it has its place. It's not going to be played everywhere.
No.
If you have a high density, like, again, this is a pretty tribally heavy set. It really is pushing that you play these tribes. So having it be in this set, I don't think is bad for any limited environment. I think it'll be still just as fine. But outside of like limited, I think we'll probably see some play in standard because this set is reinforcing the tribes so much that you really want to be getting those cards consistently.
Right.
The booth's given us
We're getting a warning.
a time warning. Here we were thinking that we weren't going to have a lot to talk about.
And here we are getting a time warning.
Yeah. Look at us. Who would have thought?
We did it. Anyway, moving on.
I think it's a cool card. I think it'll see some play. I think just because of the consistency it can bring, I think it'll see standard play. I don't see it being particularly too expensive.
Yeah.
Because it is restrictive. It's significantly more restrictive than Birthing Pod.
Yes.
But it still is a solid card. I don't think there is a reason to not play this in your mono insert tribe here
Exactly.
deck.
Now,
Because in that case, it's literally just another Birthing Pod to you.
now, shall we move on to the card that I have been wanting to talk about all night? And
Yes.
actually kind of segues well because it's a tribal card.
Yep, go for it.
So we have Lathril, Blade of the Elves. This is a 2, a black and a green for a 2/3, and it's a legendary elf noble. It has menace, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 green elf creature tokens. And then it has the line tap and tap 10 untapped elves you control. Each opponent loses 10 life and you gain 10 life. That is super abusable.
And let's really just make this clear. This is from the Commander product.
Yeah.
So this won't be standard playable, correct?
I don't know how that works, truthfully. I don't
see
believe
a
it
different
is.
set symbol on it, so I'm going to work off the assumption that it won't be standard playable.
Yeah, with the amount of supplementary products I do around standard now, I don't actually know off the top of my head what is and isn't on launch.
It can get pretty blurred, especially because like when they did the Brawl stuff was standard legal and made a big mess.
Yeah. But anyway, this card is ridiculous.
I think this card is easily one of the top contenders for an elf commander now.
Like, before, when you wanted to build black-green elves, you had to run someone like Nath, who focuses more on discard.
Right.
Or you would have to, now with the partners that came out with Commander Legends, you had to
pick two of the
pick
partners.
two subpar commanders.
Yeah.
Now, you just get to run all of those underneath this one. And again, she has a super abusable effect. There's so many effects in specifically elves and green in general that untap creatures in order to...
I definitely also think it's worth noting, like, especially elves. Elves has so many tribal synergies that just make each other bigger. Yeah. She is easily going to get huge.
Oh, yeah.
And then with Menace, that means you're going to either run over two creatures so that someone doesn't just take a ton of commander damage and you get a ton of elves.
Yep.
But also, if you do connect, then you just probably fulfill, like, you probably get, like, I don't know, probably six to seven elves on average, I'd say.
I wouldn't go that big. I'd say probably more in like the 3 to 4 range.
You don't think so? I feel like, personally, with my personal experience with elves, you get a lot of elves that are just anthem effects on sticks.
You get a lot of those, but I think it's going to depend a lot on if you can give it trample.
Okay, I can see that.
Because if not, they just throw two creatures in front of it.
Right.
Then nothing happens.
I mean, you are in black. You can use a lot of removal.
Yeah.
You could also Rogue's Passage it.
Yep. Baron is another option.
Yep.
But again,
I think this is easily one of the top dog contenders for elf, like green-black elf commanders right now.
Definitely. I think this is literally the best option.
Yeah, if you want to play green-black elves, this is the one.
Yeah.
Make sure you pick up a copy of this, because I feel like if they don't absolutely saturate the market with this,
it's going to be hard to find.
It's going to be difficult to find, and it's going to be expensive.
Yeah, which I would much rather them saturate the market with them, because I would much rather see these cards be available to those who want to play them. See Jumpstart.
Yeah, that's another topic for another day. All right, so we've been getting time warnings, so we're going to wrap this up with the last card real quick. So this is the other commander from the commander products that are going to be released alongside these. This is Renar the Ever Watchful. This is a 2 white and a blue 2/3 legendary spirit warrior. So interesting that they have the same casting cost or same converted mana cost and same stat line.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Makes it easy to...
Yeah. Anyways, he has flying and vigilance, and the first card you foretell each turn costs 0 to foretell. So foretell is another kind of
It's a gray area.
It's a gray area right now. We think we might have an idea of what it does, but can't be certain just yet.
So
we should be getting answers for it pretty soon.
Within the next week or so.
Yeah. Last paragraph of text on him. Whenever you exile one or more cards from your hand and or permanents from the battlefield, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying.
Yeah. So what we can say about Foretell is it most likely has to do with playing around with cards in your hand, because generally commanders will, well, especially when they've built them specifically for commander, will have the thing they do with whatever, and then they'll have something relevant to that.
Right. There's obviously going to be some amount of cost associated with it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a reason to reduce it to 0.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see if it's a static ability, like morph all of the cards where pay 3 mana, play it face down, and do it that way, or if each card that has Foretell has a different amount of mana that you need to spend to exile it or something. I'm assuming it's exile.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because, again, it fits what the commander does.
Right, and that's why I'm assuming exile. It'll be interesting to see how it works. It is kind of disappointing
It is. Compared to the elf, it's just kind of like, at least from what we know,
Well-
it's kind of just like, eh.
Well, also, just his last paragraph of text is like any mass flicker, you only get one spirit.
Yeah.
So it's really encouraging you to like either flicker a bunch of things individually.
And like, it's a spirit, right?
Yeah.
So why not just run like something like Carador?
Well, I don't know. We'll like
It's one of those things that you'd have to see.
yeah. It'll be interesting to talk about him maybe when we have more Foretell cards and more information about
Right.
Foretell.
Because that's the other thing, is that this card will specifically only work well with
Right.
cards from this set.
Right.
So
Which is
it's-
arguably a little bit of a design flaw.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see if Foretell ends up being a really powerful mechanic or if they just kind of
And
drop the ball on
the
it.
other gamble with it is, if it turns out to be a really powerful mechanic, they might not revisit it.
Right.
Or if it's a really weak mechanic, they also might not revisit it. So then you're just sitting with a commander that has, say, 14 support cards.
Yeah, and that's kind of similar with Investigate.
Yeah.
Investigate is another
I l-
mechanic that I love. Investigate. It's one
Yeah.
of my favorite mechanics, and it just
Yeah. That was the last time I built Standard. And I built a blue-green Investigate deck.
Yeah.
And I loved that deck.
it was really fun. But anyways, we're gonna be wrapping it up. So last thoughts on this guy? I think personally,
He's pretty disappointing compared to everything else.
Comparatively, I think it's definitely significantly watered down. His power level is intrinsically tied to the power level of Foretell.
And of the set in general.
Yeah.
Which is risky.
Well, with that, we're going to bring everything to a close. So, this has been Across the Multiverse with the judges at Great Stories. We've been very happy to have you along for this ride with us. We know we said this was going to be a short one.
Turns out it wasn't.
Turned out we really like to talk about these cards because some of them are really, really cool. Some of them are kind of meh. But overall, we hope you had a great time. We hope you learned some stuff. We hope to see you soon. Have a great day.